Very interesting. All very client relationship based, but that is the biggest fundamentals about wealth management, isn't it?
Yes, very much so. I mean, like I said, we're 100% client driven. There's no shareholders to adhere to with our firm. There's no CEO. I am the CEO, so that helps. There's no middle management that's going to try to add their 2 cents to make it worth their while and show justification for their salaries. All that matters are the needs of the client. And that's what I love about working in our firm. That is our motto, and we stick with it. Right. All that matters are the clients.
Welcome on today's episode on Growth Edge, where we speak to leaders in wealth management and financial services. For those just joining the podcast, I'm Chris, founder of Olio AI, and I partner with ambitious businesses to accelerate growth using AI automation, outreach at scale, using data-driven systems, and next-generation marketing. So if you want to learn to take your business to the next level, make sure you stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth plan, drop the word growth in the DMs. Today we have Alec Tuckman from Wealth Management Partners of Los Angeles. Alec, do you want to go ahead and share a bit about your background, story, and how you became CEO of Wealth Management Partners of Los Angeles?
Thank you, Christopher. So we are a hyper local firm in the city of Los Angeles, California. However, just because our name includes Los Angeles doesn't mean we don't help people around the world.
Yes.
We do have clients and client in Italy, for example, people all over the country here in America, where we do help them apply one of several strategies. While we can definitely have you take your money, invest it, ideally grow it, double, triple, whatever, we're known for specific strategies. Number one, creating income streams for life for seniors that retire. Number two, we have a tax play strategy that if you don't qualify for what's called a Roth IRA, where you're basically able to invest and mitigate taxes and get tax-free interest and dividends, there is a cap on that. So we're able to help people who don't qualify for that Roth and be able to grow the assets tax-free and take the money out tax-free in retirement, right? Creating a tax-free retirement with that chunk of money. That's number two. Number three, we're really known for, and this is what puts a Superman cape on my back, risk mitigation techniques. The risk mitigation techniques, or buffering strategies, as it is also known, is we're able to give you the opportunity to invest in the stock market and mitigate the risk, meaning you would not have to worry about another 2008 scenario again. Therein, if you didn't know, the stock market went down upwards of really 55%. So I'm not saying you won't lose a dime, but if you
Yeah.
want to get 60, 70, 80, 90% of participation in the stock market and be able to sleep at night, if you're nervous about the fact that the market, and it has been very toppy lately, it's trading at 55 times earnings in some sectors. So if you are concerned about that and want to be able to, again, sleep well, we can give you something of a safety security net
Yeah.
with those holdings.
Interesting. Risk mitigation techniques. That's good. Was that only recently you came about finding the mitigation, or is that you've done that for a long time now?
Yeah, right off in the bat, when I opened my own firm, believe me, I've worked for several other firms in the past, and I've learned from their mistakes. And right from the get-go, when I opened this firm, I wanted to do something that really separated me from the pack. I wanted differentiation. That was the first and foremost thing on my mind. So what do ultra high net worth investors really want? Really tax. Tax is one of the biggest situations they wanted to address. They don't like paying. I don't know one person that actually enjoys paying taxes.
No.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that's like everyone around the world. I'm sure that's not just the rich, but that's something we really focused on. Also, wealth transference, having it go properly to the next generation, and keeping more money in the client's pocket and less in Uncle Sam's pocket is always a good thing. But really, the tax mitigation. I'm sorry, the risk management technique is really what really separates it from the pack. And like I said, really makes it stand out from everyone else. There are other people that do this strategy, but not everyone does it well.
Yes.
And what makes us different, even from those people, is the fact that we're able to have I know it's getting a little more in the weeds here, but
No, it's
we're
good.
using a hedging technique within a hedging technique. And I won't go too much in the weeds, but it's a way to double protect yourself, if you will, than just doing a flat out stop loss, for example, where if the market goes down 10%, then you get out, right? We have ways to help you double that in terms of the safety.
Okay, that's really interesting, actually. So, with that, would you have to speak to the potential client and set up maybe risk profiling beforehand? I'm not too sure. Or is that something that you kind of figure out with the client as you onboard them?
Yeah. So we don't do anything until we have 2 or 3 meetings with our client to
Yeah.
figure out who they are and what they're trying to accomplish. The beauty of owning the own firm is you can do really anything you want to do. So we have a universe of opportunities that we can work with to be able to help people who want to focus only on real estate or who want those risk mitigation techniques or who are looking to go for more gain and are comfortable with taking on more risk. We have, for example, if you love risk and you're not risk averse, we have a particular fund that's we can help you with using basically leverage ETFs and inverse ETFs where you can get double or triple the return in some cases if you're okay taking on that risk. Now, we do have ways to mitigate that risk, like I said, using a stop loss in that particular strategy. But if you are all about full throttle, then yes, we can help you with that. Conversely, we look to the other side of the spectrum where we can have people invest in mitigate risk to the point where you can have a floor of zero, you won't lose a dime, but you get a cap up to a certain amount, right? Again, there's no perfect instrument out there, but I'm all about getting 100%, getting some gains. And well, I shouldn't say 100%.
Yeah.
All about getting good gains,
Yes.
moderate gains, but zero losses in some cases, depending on what that client is trying to accomplish. So, like I said, we start with a very intricate process. We get to know them, find out who they are, their family, their goals. What does retirement look like, right? What are your goals? What are your values? What was it like growing up in your family? What were you taught about investing or lack thereof? Who's important in your life? What relationships? Tell me about the process. How do you like to do business? Tell me about other advisors you've worked with in the past. What did you like about them? What did you hate about them? How can we do better than your last advisor? And the majority of our people already have advisors. So it's about improving on either their performance or trying to do something that advisor doesn't do when they're not happy. And that's why it becomes so crucial to find out more about the client. And we go through a very intricate client profile form. We go through an interview process of sorts to make sure it's good for them as well as for us.
Right. That's really it's really good that you can do that. It's also the fact is you're gaining personal trust with the potential client as well, and you're gaining all that data about them. So it's almost like you become their friend in a way, don't you? You build up a big relationship because you need to know everything about them to like mitigate the risks to their profile. Correct?
Yeah. It never ceases to amaze me. I worked at firms where an advisor would come in, had the preconceived practice pitch, right? And say, this is what we do. These are our funds. This is what we've done in the past. And that's it. And didn't ask one question about the client and their needs. And it just flabbergasted me in this day and age. How can you possibly present a solution if you don't even know their problem? So I've seen the good and the bad and the ugly in this industry. And it's also, just protecting yourself, right? As an advisor, we want to make sure not only are we doing the right thing and doing our best for the client, but we want to also make sure that we're hearing the client, truly hearing the client. And that becomes crucial because we want to act as an advisor in the truest sense. The words financial advisor are very ambiguous terms, right? Some stockbrokers use financial advisor just because it sounds nicer than a broker, right?
Yeah.
It sounds more personal. So I know that when I first started, I worked at this one shop that was like they were a one trick pony. They only sold one particular product and they didn't care if it really fit within the client profile. And I didn't like that at all. That's why I left. Although it was very informative, I learned a lot there. I didn't agree with the way they were doing business. I just didn't think that to offer one product made any sense. And that's why, as fiduciaries, and if you don't know what a fiduciary is, or your listening audience doesn't understand that, fiduciaries have to act in your needs, not their own. Anything we do or say is subject to an auditor or a judge. And for that reason, we document everything. We make sure we're absolutely clear. We put everything in writing, and we want to make sure that everything on the written page is adhered to. Right? We have 100% accountability. And what's great about our firm is, unlike a Vanguard or a Schwab or Fidelity, there's nothing wrong with that business model. Those are, in some cases, do-it-yourself shops, right?
Yeah.
You go in, you say you want to be aggressive, moderate, conservative. They shove you in one of their, through a robo-advisor, they shove you in a fund, and they call it a day. We bring a lot more to the table in that capacity, where we want to help you with everything from estate planning techniques, maybe some tax planning, right? Even we're not CPAs, although we work with a team that are. And whether you work with our team or not, that's absolutely fine. But we want to be able to, taking a step back here, most CPAs have a business model where they just do your tax return and move on to the
Yeah.
next tax return. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. But if we're able to empower our clients to say, hey, wait, before we move on, What about this? My advisor told me about X, Y, and Z. What about we find a way to save money through a Roth conversion at some point? Or what if we are able to take this money and start a Roth or a SEP or something like that, some other instrument? I want to be able to empower my clients to be able to have an informed conversation with those CPAs to say, what if we think a little bit outside the box here and just going through the typical protocol of doing the tax return, we add a little bit more in terms of value, both from my side and the CPA side.
It looks like you take a lot of time to really justify spending that time on those clients and making sure everything's right. How long do you think it takes for the processes, or the process, should we say, from onboarding the client to having them onboarded to knowing all those details and having that set up for them?
So it's funny, you can go on E-Trade or some of these other online trading platforms. In probably 10, 20 minutes, you can start losing your money. We're the exact opposite of that, where it's actually not easy to do business with us. We
No.
take time because we take time to get to know you, because we take the opportunity to learn everything we possibly can about you, what you like, what you don't like, your goals. What does it look like 10 years from now? What are your personal and professional goals? What does 30 years look like, right? What does the ideal retirement look like for you? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? Because of not just the questioning, but because of the fact that we want to make sure we're doing our job in the best way we possibly can. Upwards, I would say, between the several meetings we have, doing the paperwork properly, even though, yes, you can approve the paperwork from the comfort of your own home through
Yeah.
DocuSign, it's probably a couple of weeks, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks before you're actually up and running with us, because we do the due diligence that's required and that we think is necessary to do the job properly. And I've talked to other clients that asked me, or clients that came in and did work with other advisors, that said, how come my other advisor didn't take this long? Why do I have to take this, this particular paperwork and fill this out? It's because you are not just another number, right? We love the fact that we have a high retention and our attrition is very low. And we are here in every way we possibly can financially. And I know the majority of advisors out there will talk about, probably 100% of the advisors will be talking about the investments. And we do definitely do that. There's so many other slices of the financial pie that need to be addressed. Like I said, there's things like real estate, right? We can have real estate conversations. I have my realtor's license, as well as my insurance license and my securities licenses. I also have a lot of designations, which I'll, shell that conversation. We want to be able to address the entire financial pie. We even have things like concierge services, where if you travel from America to the UK, for example, and let's say hypothetically you get pickpocketed. I'm not saying that anyone in the UK would do that, but if you're pickpocketed, you could go to the embassy, contact us. We can have a safe for you where we keep your personal documents. We can fax it or email it over to you, in your including things like a copy of your ATM card and so on. So you're not going to be stranded in some random foreign country, right? There's a lot of great things we can do for you as an advisor. And that's why I say we are acting as the truest sense of the advisor sense of the word.
No, that's really good. The way I see it, I don't know if it's right to say this, but you really are diversifying your position.
Yep.
Would you say that's correct?
Yeah. So the best way to look at us is as something of what's called a family office. Are you familiar with the family office term?
Family offices,
Okay.
yes.
So we call ourselves a virtual family office, right? Where we, in case for the viewers that aren't familiar with that term, the power families of the world, like the Kennedys, the Rockefellers, the Musks of the world, although I hate to use that reference, ultimately they'll have a financial team in place to guide them on their financial affairs. We want to bring that business model to the upper middle class, right? Where we're able to give you the opportunity to take advantage of some funds, for example, or some tools where you don't need multi-millions of dollars to be able to access these wonderful opportunities. And that's really why we stand apart from everyone else. That and the fact that we are big believers in education as well as transparency and integrity. So we, unlike other advisors that may just ask your risk tolerance, aggressive, moderate, conservative, okay, great, shove you into fun, call it a day. That's not us. We take the time again to learn more about you and actively find out what the best course of action is. And maybe you want certain buckets of money working for different purposes. Some conservative money for liquidity reasons. Maybe you want some aggressive where you want to put that money into play for the fact that you're okay knowing it's going to be more volatile, but over time get you better gains. So again, we take the time to really get to know our people, and that's why we are acting as an advisor in the advisory sense.
Really interesting. Really, you got a lot covered there, I believe. With like your whole business model. I believe you really have diversified position and you're helping out a lot of clients. And by the sounds of things, if I was one of your clients, I think I'd be well impressed. I believe like a lot of your clients stay with you for a long term as well because you help them out. I bet you barely see any of your clients leave.
Yeah. So when we lose a client, usually it's due to them either passing on or we don't have a good relationship with the beneficiary. And that's something we've had to work on as a firm, is making sure that we are including, the people that aren't interfacing with us. And again, you just get in this routine where you develop a relationship with someone, you're used to only talking with them. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes there is only the alpha of the relationship, whether that's male or female, where you're primarily interacting with that person and the other person doesn't want to get involved. Maybe they're maybe intimidated by financial discussions. Maybe they don't want to deal with it. They're too busy, what have you. That has been one of our biggest challenges in making sure that we are able to incorporate everyone from the family. And I tell them straight up when I want to meet with them, I insist that we have the spouse there because this is affecting both parties. It's not just one person. And in some cases, we also want to help the kids because we do want to start a working relationship with those children as soon as they turn 18. Once they're either in college or in the workforce, then starting the investing process becomes crucial because you have the time value of money. The faster you can invest in those assets, the better off you're going to be in the long run. There's an expression in the realtors world, when selling real estate, you're not supposed to wait to buy, you buy and then wait. That definitely applies within the investment world because of what's called compounding interest. The more time we have to see that grow over time, the more wealthy you can be, essentially.
I had another wealth manager from the UK on the podcast with me who said if you start earlier, the easier it gets down the line. And
Yes.
that's why I was like, she's not wrong at all. And going back to for the kids when they turn 18, I feel like it's very, very important that they have like wealth managers and become financially educated because I spoke to quite a few people about like financial education systems and how it's not really taught in school. We learn numbers, English. We're taught about maths, but we're not taught about actual finances and how to manage it. So I feel like financial education is very important and it's very missed upon.
So I'm not going to try to spark controversy on this podcast by
Yeah.
going direction. You are not to open a certain can of worms, but there is the concept or the notion that the public school system was developed not for really educating. Yes, it does do that as a byproduct of sorts, but really it was meant to be able to train good workers as a gear in the machine, right? The word on the street is, based on my reading, is that, the mega power moguls of the world back in the day, right? The Fords of the world, right? The Rockefellers decided to help set up the public school. I know there's public school system before, but they made it more progressive and more efficient and put more money into the system to be able to train more competent workers. So if you have that bad child that people will stereotype in some cases that is misbehaving or is bored or whatever, maybe they're actually a very brilliant child, but they just are impatient or bored because they don't like being subservient or following rules, right? And you see that some of the most successful people, in some cases, even some of my clients, I noticed may either have ADHD or a short attention span. Maybe they don't like following the rules. Maybe they're like, well, I don't like the fact that there are restrictions. What can we do? What's the workaround there? So I did notice a pattern there in some cases.
Yeah.
Being good in school does not dictate your success in life. I've learned that very early. And I've even saw that in my kids. Even though, yes, I think it's important to learn things like mathematics, much to the dismay of my children. We do have homework at home. I think it's important we do learn the fundamentals, but understand that that should not be limiting. And there's much more that you're not going to learn, right? And I think that that is one of the biggest challenges with the school system. They've never wanted to really train the world. I don't know in any country where they actually give you details on how to invest, what stocks to buy, how to purchase real estate. What is the equation to acquire wealth over time? How do you become rich? How do you become wealthy the slow and sure way? And that is by design, in my opinion. They don't want successful people. They're not putting their money in so the kids can grow up and become successful. They grow up so corporate America can be successful.
That's very interesting you say that. Like I feel like this is a biased opinion, but I believe like you said, the reason why they have this education system is to push people out into the jobs that are needed instead of like wanted. I feel like that is the way I like to push it across. Like you're still going to need plumbers, electricians, everything like that. And it's not, I wouldn't say harder jobs, but it's the jobs that people need to be pushed across and upon them, which is, that's what sort of school sort of teaches upon them. I believe anyway. I don't know if I said that correctly.
Well, based on what I'm seeing in the media and all the reading I've been doing, concerned that AI will be taking on a lot of these jobs. I think the plumbers of the world, the working class electricians and so on, maybe some of the last replaced by AI. If we're,
Yes.
I mean, I could be wrong because I did see a video of in China of a robot that was able to jump and do drywalling and mudding on drywall, which was flabbergasting because everything up until that point, I've heard that the plumbers will have the jobs the longest versus everyone else,
Yeah.
including doctors and lawyers. I mean, I know Elon Musk was pushing for some kind of system where you're trying to do AI for every judgment, and you would have basically AI doing the representation, right? As a solicitor, as they say in the
Yeah.
UK. And the judge would be AI as well. It'll be purely on fact, zero on emotion, which I guess is both efficient and chilling. But I'm concerned that AI may be taking over a lot of these jobs that a lot of the people are going into without education. Now, I don't think there's any educational job that AI probably can't do even now. I mean, and again, there's the accuracy question. That's really the only thing preventing AI from really taking over at this point. But I think that could change tomorrow at the rate we're going with what GPT-6, right, to be.
Yeah.
But supposedly, yeah, the plumbers and the drywallers up until now have been the ones that they were saying would have those jobs the longest.
Yeah, it's interesting. They do say it's going to take a while with AI to really move forward. They say about 10 years until it can actually start. Because at the moment, we're trained, as much as we call it AI, it's not really AI. It's more large language models. So it's basically can read up text and everything. It doesn't know too much about our world. It knows it in books and reading and writing. However, for like visuals, so like, for example, if AI looked around my room, it wouldn't understand yet currently because it doesn't understand our world and what we live in. It can get some sort of context, but currently it doesn't still understand our world. It just understands through reading. It's like having a Bible of our book, and it still needs human prompts, the human integration to make them run. Without us still, it will not run at all. But it will eventually, maybe 10 years down the line, they said, it will can start to integrate more where it can actually just run by itself. But until those times, a lot of people are scared right now, and I don't feel like they need to be, because it always will require a human interaction. But once it gets to a point where it doesn't need a human interaction and it can do things on its own and take over, then that's the point that people should get worried about.
I would question the 10-year timeline you're mentioning. Based on what I'm seeing with these huge jumps in advancement and the trillions of dollars they are putting into AI, I think it could happen a lot sooner. I don't know if you've heard of the theory about, again, I know we may be going off topic, but
No.
there's that theory about AI 2007 or 2008, right? They say 2000, they call it 2007.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what is it? I'm sorry, what is it? It's AI 2027 or AI 2028 or something, where they're saying the AI is going to take over at that point where it'd be so intelligent
Yeah, I think it was
that will be
2028.
irrelevant. And I think that's probably, I don't know if it'll be a year or two, but I do think that it's going to be a lot faster than 10 years. We're seeing the jumps in advancement. And again, this is not my forte.
Yeah.
I try to stay in my lane, but I do read a lot about it and I'm obsessed with it. I do a lot of research on it. And by the way, even in our office, we use a ton of different AI tools, from helping with the phone answering to note taking. It used to take me 3 hours after a meeting to sit down and dictate what happened in that meeting, recollect it, try to detail it, go through the spelling, and put in a format in our CRM system to be able to, when we are, if and when we are audited down the line, we want to make sure it's coherent. Now, all that's done for me, and it takes about 5 seconds. And what used to take me 2 or 3 hours is done like that.
It's
That has
crazy.
been a huge game changer in AI. Furthermore, we use AI even when we try to figure out the best course of action for our clients. We came up with our own AI system we programmed in-house called Warren Botfit, right? Named after Warren Buffett, the investment guru who owns Berkshire Hathaway, and he recently stepped down. But we double check everything we say, and we try to get other ideas outside of what we personally would think. to see what the computer thinks, just as a check. And it has
Yeah.
been incredibly helpful just to remember those couple, morsels of opportunities that we could present that we may have forgotten. So I got to tell you, already it's been such a game changer and revolutionized our industry. My only concern is it does do our job better at some point. I think that it will with literally every other industry at some point probably do everything better than a human being. I just hope that it's like 20, 30 years from now, not, a couple years from now, which it may be. I don't know. In which case we would have to switch to some kind of universal income for the world. Otherwise, we would see mass rioting and looting and complete chaos.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. I do agree with what you say. It's just, I don't feel like they would let the world get to that point. I don't know, but like, I feel like there'll be like safeguards in place to like prevent, it would be the collapse of potentially humanity down the
Yeah.
road. But like, I believe they will put guardrails in place. It's getting to the point where they're having to do meetings now and think about what's going to happen in the future. So I believe there'll be guardrails put on that to say it can't go any further, but there'll be people that still break those rules. There's always going to be people that break those rules, but that's what
Sure.
I believe will get to. But I don't think like there's any way to be scared. I'm more excited than anything because I don't know what the word for it is though, but I believe this could be our next advancement to understanding more about our universe and maybe even exploring space a bit more. So this is why I'm excited about it, because we're on one planet now. We haven't really explored. We've been to the moon and that's about it. But I feel like we've advanced so much that we could actually travel and do space travel. It might not be in my time, might be. The way we're advancing, like you said, is at a spectacular rate right now. You're getting a new AI tool out every day. There was actually something I seen yesterday that really impressed me, and it's a new helmet cam for the military that has an inbuilt HUD. Like, I don't know if you've ever played like computer games like
Sure.
Halo.
Sure.
It had the Halo HUD in it,
That's fine.
and it had visuals to like see if there was any moving objects, thermal imaging, and it was live. It even had a rear facing camera, so it could see the rear when you're looking at the front. It was like complete Halo. It had a HUD and everything. I was like, that's next generational. That's madness. I don't think it's launched, but it's out there now. The tech's there, and it's something that you would think we could never achieve, but it's been achieved.
Yeah, typically the military is about 5 to 10 years ahead in terms of technology than the rest of the world. And I have no doubt with the amount of money being poured into AI and other technology like that, that they're going to benefit tremendously from a lot of that. It's amazing. I do think about my childhood obsession with this movie, The Terminator, right? James Cameron, the all-time classic, and what a profound movie that really was. Because what we are doing is moving in that direction. Everything we've seen in that movie, it's slowly the beginning of that. This would be the prequel to that. I mean, we are seeing everything being automated, and if that's not America, it's the other our competitors like China, Russia, Iran. They're all going the AI direction, which is even more scary because even if we do have a person to check the AI, first of all, how do we even be able to unplug it if there is a way to do that? And then even if we are successful in unplugging, what about our competition, right? How would they be able to? Would they be able to? It frightens me that we are becoming so AI oriented when it comes to technology, when it comes to the military, because what control do we have after a certain point? I guess you could do like an EMP attack on the AI system and try to shut it down or whatever. But I don't know. It gets kind of scary when you give too much power. And the smarter it gets, the more it's going to realize we're not needed, right? It's like, almost like comparing us to, I don't know, just a child, maybe a 5-year-old child in terms of the intellect level, right? Why does it need to take care of us as babies? Why does it even need to have us around? And really, it doesn't. If it can do everything on its own, it doesn't need us. And I think the big challenge becomes, what if it's based on the resources? If we're interfering with the resources it needs to exist, then we are a threat. But if we're not a threat because we're not using its resources, or there are plenty of resources, hopefully we're in a good spot then. So it's just about interpretation from that AI system, whether we are a threat or not.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's have you ever watched The Matrix?
I am a big fan of number one, two, not so much, three, horrendous.
The whole three films explains that in a nutshell. That the reason why it is the Matrix. They're like they harvest us as resource because the Earth
Yes.
loses its resources, and then we are the power source. So they use, I think it was our brain, I think it was the brains and the heat from us to power
The body,
themselves.
right. We're batteries essentially for
Which
this.
is the thing is, if we can be harvested for power, it's been proven that we are machines at the end of the day. Our bodies are built like machines, so we could then end up being harvested for power later down the line. Not to scare anyone out there, but there is potential behind this theory. Shall we move back onto the topic of
Please, please. I know we went on that big tangent. Yeah.
yeah, sorry,
You know,
that was
fun conversation, no less.
yeah, no, very good conversation. So going back to wealth management and your clients, so what do you enjoy the most about working?
I love saving financial lives, right?
Mm,
Whether that's from do-it-yourselfers that just got bad information to an advisor that just sent them down the wrong road. I love being able to be something of a financial doctor to a family and get them back on track. That's really when people ask what I do, I tell them I fix other people's portfolios, right? Because I see too much misinformation out there. Everyone got excited when the internet came out. I said about how much information, this wealth of information just blew up in everyone's faces. But the challenge there is number one, when you watch these YouTube videos or TikTok videos, there's usually a slant, and that slant is gearing towards the best interest of that person making the video,
yeah,
right? And because of that, there's a lot of misunderstanding, misinterpretation. And what we try to do is show the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like I said before, there's no perfect instrument. Otherwise, you wouldn't talk to an advisor. But what we're trying to do is maximize really the best things you can get out of an instrument. And I say that because with any instrument, whether it's a bank account, whether it's a real estate investment, whether it's a stock, there are four components to any instrument out there. Those components are safety, growth, income, and liquidity. And you can pick two or three out of those four, but there's no perfect instrument, like I said, that gives you all four. So
yeah,
it's about maximizing what's important to that particular client. Where, for example, if they want to invest and get a little bit, maybe modest gain from that investment, we can do that, right? That then you're focused more on safety and less on the other factors. If you, for example, only care about gain, I had a hot shot engineer who was 55, worked at a very prominent defense company, a defense contractor. And he was all about risk, right? And I'm like, okay, now you're talking my language. Where we talked about things like leverage ETFs and inverse ETFs. So it really depends on what that client is trying to accomplish. And that'll dictate on some level the road. And really, they don't really care about the instrument we're using. They're looking at the outcome, right? The outcome is what's important, not whatever instrument we use. And that's where I am kind of something of a middleman to find connecting, what's over here to the people that need it. And that's really where we ultimately show our strength, right? What we're trying to do, especially in retirement, is go from here to there. That's it, right?
yeah.
We're trying to get you to your goals. And that's really where we bring the value.
If you without being a client, by what you already taught me and told me, I don't think there's not a time that you don't achieve these goals, right?
Yep. Yeah. In
Correct.
like now, we will show you the good and the bad and the ugly. Like we're very high on the market. However, the market is very frothy, right? Very toppy. And I am concerned that really the American economy right now seems to be betting on one particular sector, which is the tech industry, right? AI is what's fueling our GDP right now. There's cracks in the system that are slowly showing, and we are gambling on this one sector. Maybe this will take us through to Eden, right? Maybe this will be the perfect gateway to an amazing society 10, 20 years from now. But already we're feeling the pains, as we've already discussed, with the challenges we're seeing with employment, with the fact that technology can do really anything better than us with AI once it gets to that point of not just LLM, but the next step after. So we are betting on this as a country that this will pull us through everything. And it is really in the last 2.5 years, this is what's propped up the economy.
Yeah.
I remember back in 2022 when there was so much talk on CNBC and all the other news outlets, the financial news outlets, where they talked about, are we going to have a soft or a hard recession? That was literally the conversation every other day, if not every day. And what pulled the fat out of the fire was AI stocks. Now, yes, we had utilities that also helped. We had, obesity drugs was, helping to propel the market for a period of time until they found other repercussions there. And then we did have corporate buybacks that were helping and so on. Energy stocks are also doing well. But ultimately, we are gambling on this one sector. And my fingers are crossed that's going to work. I am concerned that we're seeing a lot of similarities between now, what's happening now, and the tech crash back in 2000 to 2002, right?
Mm.
There's that expression, Mark Twain had a very famous quote, history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly does rhyme.
Yes.
So, well, I don't think that necessarily the market could crash tomorrow, although it maybe could. I do think that we are seeing a lot of similarities. And I told my clients this back in 2000, 2002. I remember it very clearly, right? I have a very good memory when it comes to
Yeah.
pain. And that was not a fun time. And when I was trading on my own, even watching the numbers, I couldn't believe I was watching, looking at the S&P futures, thinking, what on earth is going on here? I couldn't believe the amount of faith and money that went into these tech stocks like pets.com, even Amazon. Amazon is, a major powerhouse now, but people forget that it wasn't profitable for 10 years and it took a beating in the tech crash. What was it, like 60, 70% or something at that point? Even, the people that you think are going to, the companies rather, you think are going to rock and roll end up, having their own little pothole, not little, big potholes to go through before they really get to, to success. So, I've reminded my clients that, and some people want to take a more reserved stance. Some people are okay with the volatility, but it does going back. It always goes back to knowing that particular client, knowing what they're comfortable with. And I do want to make sure they can sleep at night, not just grow their assets.
It's very interesting. All very client relationship based, but that is the biggest fundamentals about wealth management, isn't it?
Yes, very much so. I mean, like I said, we're 100% client driven. There's no shareholders to adhere to with our firm. There's no CEO. I am the CEO, so that helps. There's no middle management that's going to try to add their 2 cents to make it worth their while and show justification for their salaries. All that matters are the needs of the client. And that's what I love about working at our firm. That is our motto, and we stick with it. Right. All that matters are the clients.
Right. That's great. That's really good. So, what's been working well for you, and what's been frustrating?
What has been frustrating has certain administrative changes in decision making. As I don't know if you're aware, there's that saying, taco, Trump always chickens out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to do my best to avoid politics in this conversation, but it does get frustrating on some level when something is said and then instantly rolled back. And the next day you try to trade or try to make a solid investment decision. And then suddenly everything's turning the exact opposite, right? It's a
Yeah.
total 180. So that's been somewhat frustrating, although we've seen an amazing V-shaped recovery since the tariffs, and we love that. I do believe, and this is just my personal philosophy here, I do believe, like the Mark Twain quote I mentioned, history does rhyme. So if we look back in Trump 1.0, when he first announced the first wave of tariffs with China, which I think was around 2018, 2019, we saw the tariffs go through. We had an absolute great year until the very last month, I think it was middle or end of December, where we saw the market have a major pullback. That's what has me concerned. And yes, and during Trump 1.0, the other years were actually pretty good. My concern is we are looking at a major pullback like that. I don't know how much, I don't know when, but I am expecting a pullback. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. If you look at PE ratios, it's almost like when you buy your kids pajamas, try to buy the next size up so the kid grows into those pajamas.
Yeah.
And that is what we're looking at with PE ratios, right? The company has to have time to meet the emotional and realistic expectations based on how much they're going to bring in, right? Cash flow and whatnot. So I am hoping that even if we do have a pullback, it's not going to be bad. I don't think a 10% or 15% pullback is going to be the worst thing in the world, because that'll give the opportunity for the market to breathe. It will rebound as it has in
Yeah.
the past. People won't like it. I don't like it. I'm going to be taking a lot of phone calls from clients to talk them off the cliff, because people have gotten used to the fact that the market's only gone up the last 2.5 years. They forget the fact the market can go down too. So we will be having that conversation if and when that happens. And I'm saying if, I think it's just a matter of time.
But that's good to also think like that and have that perception in your mind that comes back to risk mitigation. So you can actually you have to foresee a little bit into the future and realize what happens, and you get the ups, you get the downs, and you can actually see what's potentially going to happen down the line and prepare for it.
Yeah. We are not believers in short-term swing trading, nano trading, even day trading. We invest for the long term. Investing your money for the long haul is what they call longing the market. That's the best way to go, in our opinion. That's our company philosophy. If you want to have an overnight success with wealth, you have to take on a tremendous amount of risk, in which case just go to Vegas. There's a land of opportunity there waiting for you, and they'll love to take your money. We like to acquire wealth a slow and sure way, right? You're not going to be rich overnight. We tell our people that from the beginning. And while yes, you acquire more wealth depending on your strategy and your comfort level with risk, that is a huge factor in dictating how much wealth you can expect at the end of the rainbow, right? When you finally decide to take that plunge into retirement, we do want to make sure that number one, you are in a comfort zone where you can essentially live on the interest and dividends and preserve the principal, right? Where you're living on the money, making the money essentially. And I never want to have that conversation. You've run out of money, right? It's not fun. I've had it before with people we talked to coming in, right? Not necessarily our current clients, but people that we're actually talking to. And it's not a fun conversation. And in some cases, there are ways to help them. Sometimes there aren't. I can tell you, I talked to a person not too long ago, $90,000 in debt, and they were 62 years old. How do you even get there? So this is why it becomes so crucial to help people with basic fundamentals in investing. And that's why I love communicating with the kids of my clients, because I'm embedding those good values right from the get-go. Imagine the power of educating your kids at age 18 versus finding out this information when you're in your 50s or 60s. Imagine the range, the difference you would see in terms of the return on your investment if you're able to learn this knowledge at an early age.
Believe it is so important. So I'm teaching my son, he is 11 now. It's a bit early, but I'm teaching him now to save his money. At the moment, he has a bank account. He's saving money into there at the moment. But like when he turns 18, I've told him to diversify his position with his money. I said, you're not going to go out there and spend it all. You're going to diversify it into different sectors where you can have investments, short term, long term, not play money, but like money to build businesses. Try and help him in the long run, because I never had that financial education growing up. I've had to learn, and by the age of 31, it's actually got a lot better by self teaching myself. I've had many downfalls on the way, but sometimes you have to learn from your mistakes. But some mistakes aren't great. But like you said, it's better to learn earlier on than when you're 60, when you start panicking about your retirement.
Sure. And by the way, after we go offline, I'm going to have a conversation about your kid investing in a bank account. A lot to discuss there.
Oh, there
And
you go.
we'll have that conversation.
Okay. So looking ahead, what excites you the most about Wealth Management Partners of Los Angeles?
What I love about having my own firm is we can entertain the opportunity for taking on new strategies. Like I mentioned before with the tax play, where you can grow your money tax free and take the money out tax free in retirement. But I didn't even know my other firms that even existed. So I am constantly looking at new investment opportunities. I put my money in, right, before I would put my clients' money in to
Yeah.
test the waters. But ultimately, I love having the opportunity to talk to new vendors, find out new instruments, and technology is nothing short of amazing. It is the closest thing to magic, in my opinion. And if we are able to get better return in some cases with more safety, for example, I love that, right? That's just music to my ears, because that really helps reinforce our position in the industry to be able to mitigate risk and still get good gains in the market. So the answer to your question simply is technology. I love the opportunity to be able to explore the fintech realm. I go to a lot of conventions and really learn more about what's available out there in terms of new tools to help my clients. We are first adopters for a lot of things, AI being one of them. So the fact that we are on the verge of a new frontier and we're the first to enter that frontier makes us particularly strong as a firm.
Yes. That's really good that you're integrating that with your business as well, because I do see a lot of businesses out there that are scared or don't have the knowledge base to want to take on new technology. And with that, I believe it stops them. It prevent as much. It sounds bad, but it prevents them growing. They can still grow, but not grow at an exponential rate to like potential competitors. And I've seen this with not with just wealth management. For example, let's say I know a person that has a a trades business which they solely rely on just manual processes. It works, however, it does stop them. I've found tools that would help them exponentially grow. However, they're too scared to incorporate that technology, or even like talk to other people about putting that technology into place, which is a bit worrying. But at the end of the day, you can't not everyone's going to listen, and everyone's stuck in their own mindset of like taking on technology.
Sure. And I'm not even talking about advanced AI. I'm talking about there are still some firms out there that won't let you text. I talked to some, friends that went in a different direction and maybe working for other firms, other advisors that are working for these archaic minded firms that, how do you not do business through text in today's day and age? How is that even possible? I don't know. But that particular firm decided no texting allowed in their organization. It's mind boggling to me. I mean,
Yeah,
those that don't advance, those that don't progress with technology are dead in the water. You're just dead. It's that simple, because technology is what helps facilitate everything in our industry.
interesting. It is interesting. It's also having that mindset for growth, I believe. If you don't have that growth mindset, then you won't want to use these tools or technology. Some people get comfortable in where they're at, and having that comfort zone does prevent you from growing, I believe. But I think that's a lot of a mental block. So, but looking into your firm again or business, where do you want to be in the next 6 to 12 months?
We would love to be able to 3x our firm if we can. That's more the 12-month, not the 6-month range. But we are exploring new opportunities, which I think can jet set growth. And we're in the baby steps of implementing those strategies. So I'm very excited towards the future to be able to let the world know about some of the ideas and strategies that we have that don't
Mhm.
know about them now.
Interesting, interesting. So, what is the biggest lessons you've learned on your journey and has helped you become you today?
Just in general or for our firm?
I'd point this one more at you.
I think by helping people and by educating people, you help yourself. And what I mean by that is, as you take the time to get to know the client, find out what they're trying to accomplish, reiterate that to the client and give them ideas, right? Where you're not acting as a dictator, just kind of shoving them in a fund and calling it a day. Most advisors, by the way, like I said before, did that. They just love, asking the risk tolerance, A, B, C, or D. Then they shove in a fund, call it a day. They don't know what's happening behind the iron curtain, right?
Yeah.
They just have no idea as a client what's happening. What is the firm doing? We are the exact opposite of that, where we probably, in being totally honest, we have probably lost business because we, I guess, overeducate, for lack of a better word. But I would rather give more information than less, because there's no exam at the end, there's no quiz. Just know that I know all this. I'm an advisor and it's the tip of the iceberg, but I'm trying to share my philosophy and strategy so they have a good idea what to expect, so there are no surprises. And I try to give them that education they didn't get in high school, to
Yeah.
explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and how it's going to help them. But conversely, no perfect instrument, like I've said before. So I will prepare them for the possible consequences if, let's say, the market goes south or we don't have a great year and maybe they're not getting 100% of the gains. So there are different variations of things that may not go perfectly, but I want them to be aware of those things.
It's interesting. You really like to, the way I see that is you like sharing your knowledge and your financial education and to teach your clients financial education, which is something like, I guess it fulfills you by financially educating people on what they didn't know as well.
Yeah. Interesting enough, both of my parents were economics professors. They started as college professors, and my father went on to be dean of the business school at several different universities. And I think I've taken that mindset with me, because from the beginning, when I was sitting in the car as dad was driving me to school, he would teach me these basic economic principles. Where as a kid, you're like, oh, I don't care, you're boring. Let's
Yeah.
listen to the radio. But now I've never been more thankful for dad to give me that primer. And that's something that I am now giving to my clients. And I can understand how, well, I can deliver it in a way that's easy to digest for the client, where I'm not overwhelming them. Right now, I understand that I get, ironically, a lot of my clients are teachers, the teachers that have gone through, they're self-educated, they're self-made millionaires. And yes, there are many millionaires that are teachers that have been diligent, saved their money, been very frugal, and it's paid off in spades in the long run. And I've helped them grow those millions from our investments. And the reason teachers especially love us, and nurses for some reason, teachers, nurses, and policemen love us, as well as we have a lot of what they call below the line entertainment industry professionals. They love us because we educate as well as grow the assets. So I think most of our clients are more informed investors by being with us,
Yeah,
because of the fact we do explain our philosophy and strategy.
it's interesting. It's not like you're saying, "Oh, this is what we can do for you." No, you explain do you explain like every step of the way as well and why you're doing it?
Not just in the process, but also the instrument itself. So I give variables in terms of, if X happens, this we'll expect this. If, you know, this happens, maybe we'll see our money here, right? Again, no perfect instrument, but I do want to make sure I am doing the proper alignment, if you will, with the client and the appropriate instrument. And sometimes the client may not even know that. As you can tell, a very opinionated person, I'll definitely give you my 2 cents. It's a partnership. It's not a dictatorship.
Yeah,
We do help them along. I give you my opinion. I tell you what I think you may would consider doing, but ultimately the client has control through the whole process. I don't do anything till they give me the green light. And only then do we move forward with the strategies we've discussed. And you're not all in on one strategy. You can mix and match. You can do, like I said, buckets of money, conservative here, aggressive there, maybe something moderately aggressive. It's just about what you're trying to accomplish.
interesting. I really like those insights with that. A lot of lessons learned and a lot of lessons taught to people as well. Interesting. So, with that, we are running out of time here. So, we will wrap this up now. I'd like to say a big thank you to Alec for joining me. And if you
Thank
want to
you.
find more about Alec's services, I'll leave a link in the description below. Alec, have you got any questions or anything you want to add?
No, just that it's been a blast being here. Thank you for inviting me. And I look forward to educating your listeners just as much as my clients, whether you're in UK, whether you're in America, whether you're in Los Angeles, it's irrelevant. Thanks to technology, we can help you into where you are. And we would love to help you. It's worthy of a conversation. If anything, you learn something, right? So I encourage everyone to reach out and reach out to the firm and schedule a time. And I'd love to help.
Thank you very much.